Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna. We're the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show.
We're also the creators of the Cognomovement system, where we help you rewire your nervous system so you can rewire your reality.
Join us each week for great conversations, amazing guests, and cutting-edge information on health, consciousness, and the keys to transformation.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm here with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
Hey, Bill McKenna. Thanks for being here with us today. And we recently had an interview with one of our amazing practitioners, Alicia Avila, who talked about a little bit about the Radical Remission Project, which she's been involved in. And today, we actually have the co-director of that program that we are just so thrilled to be able to have this conversation with. So welcome, Karla. And would you please just tell everybody who you are and what you're doing in this Radical Remission Project?
I would love to. Thank you so much, Bill and Liz. I'm Karla Mans Giroux. I am the co-director of the Radical Remission Project, which was founded by Dr. Kelly Turner after doing research on people who had overcome a dire cancer prognosis. And she's written a book called Radical Remission. It's now in its on its 10th anniversary year, but it hit the New York Times bestseller list. And it details what all of these radical remission survivors did to overcome a dire prognosis. And when I say a dire prognosis, it's a 25% less or chance of 5-year survival. So it's typically a late stage cancer diagnosis. And she then added in some research on people with other than cancer diagnosis. And what she came out with, though, in that initial research and in the continuing research is that there are 10 lifestyle changes that every single one of these survivors utilized to overcome their diagnosis. So in all total, she did her research. She traveled to 10 different countries over the course of 10 months, talking to the individuals that were the survivors, as well as healers and practitioners that helped them. And initially, it was a lot of people who'd gone through conventional medicine, that failed, sent them home on hospice care, and they then went and did whatever they did and ended up overcoming and finding remission. Or it was people that took a completely alternative approach. So here's where I want to say, we're not against conventional treatment at all. In fact, I use an integrative approach in my own cancer journey. We just feel that there is something to learn from those people. Dr. Turner initially, I want to learn, what did these people do? They're finding remission. And all total, there was over 75 different factors that people were utilizing, things that they were trying and doing. But these 10 that she has written about now in 2 books and a docuseries outline what every single one of them had in common. So we can get into the details of those 10 healing factors, but because of my own cancer journey, I became very passionate about sharing the work of Dr. Turner, and have had the honor and privilege to become the co-director of the project to help carry on that mission.
Wow. Could you tell us about your cancer journey and how that emerged for you, and then what you did and how you found this whole remission project?
Yeah, my cancer journey, I have 2 distinct journeys. In 2003, I was 37 years old with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had a mastectomy, chemotherapy, radiation, and 5 years of tamoxifen, and essentially just followed that conventional approach. Did just a little bit of what might be considered alternative or complementary, because at that time in 2003, I didn't know any better. I didn't do a lot of research, etc. But I got through that whole treatment regime, 9 months from start to finish, other than the 5 years at tamoxifen. Got through it relatively easily because I was young and healthy and had a very optimistic mindset. So I kept thinking, all right, every year that I get past that cancer diagnosis, I'm safer and safer and safer. And on my 10th cancerversary, I thought, okay, great, that's it. I'm done. I don't have to worry about this anymore. It was literally 11 years after that initial cancer diagnosis that I received a metastatic cancer diagnosis. So the breast cancer had metastasized to bones, and it was all over my torso, my hips, pelvis, spine, ribs, clavicle, just everywhere. So very, very scary that it had come back when I thought I was done with it. And when I got that diagnosis, I knew I had to do so much more than I'd ever done before. And of course, being 11 years older and wiser and just more internet availability and more research, et cetera, I really doubled down on what I was going to do for myself. I did go back to my conventional oncologist. I did start taking the conventional drugs. Mine was a hormone receptor positive breast cancer, and they tried to biopsy it, could not get a good biopsy from bone, so treated it as if it were the same cancer I'd had before, and indeed it responded. Did it respond to conventional medicine? Sure. Did it also respond to all the lifestyle changes I made? Absolutely, because I immediately changed my diet, cleaned up all the toxins in my household, my beauty products, my life. I looked at deepening my spirituality and working on my own worthiness, all sorts of things. And worked with a cancer health coach immediately, like signed up immediately. Like, I got to do a lot different. I'm going to do it all, because my kids were now preteen, teenagers, and I still wanted to be around for a long time to see them grow and meet their milestones, but also to do my own growth and milestones. And as an aside, I've always had a goal, kind of a knowing that I'm going to live to be 101 healthy and sane. And I intend to keep after that goal of living to 101 healthy and sane. So I knew I needed to do so much more than what conventional medicine was offering me, because it was very limited. They're like, here, take this pill. Is there anything else I can do? Nope. You're all good. Just go about your life and take this pill. Like, that didn't sit well with me. I needed to do more. And I didn't find, so I was diagnosed with metastatic cancer in late 2014, and Dr. Kelly Turner's book, Radical Remission, had come out that year. I found it sometime in 2015 or 2016. I don't know exactly when or how I found the book, but when I found it, I looked at the table of contents, which is basically a list of all of the healing factors. And in her first book, she outlined the 9 healing factors. Later, she went back and added in exercise. And I can tell you more about that. But when I looked at that table of contents, it was very validating. Like, oh my God, yes, I've done this one and this one and this one, check, check, check. And ooh, what's this? I need to dig in. So there were a couple of healing lifestyle changes that I hadn't delved into that I needed to, or some that I needed to just go deeper into. So that was how I began my journey through this. And I'm pleased to say that even at my 3-month scan, so from diagnosis, 3 months later, the follow-up scan showed stable. Cancer had not grown. So I felt like, okay, I've arrested it. And I had some symptoms that were very telling, which were also receding. And I continued with stable scans for 6 months, a year and a half. A year and a half, I got a liver tumor. So at that time, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do differently? A liver tumor has come up. What have I not done enough of? Where do I need to make some changes? And I had been talking to an integrative oncologist here in the United States. And integrative oncology isn't that easy to find, but I'm lucky enough to be located in the Chicago area. And there's an integrative oncologist here. And I had met with them and really liked what they had to say. And when the liver tumor came up, decided I'm definitely making the switch. I'm going to take my care over to them, because they were partners with me in diet, nutrition, herbs and supplements, and the mind, body, and spirit approach, where the conventional docs just said, take the pill. Don't waste your money on those supplements. That's not going to do you any good. Go eat a brownie, drink a margarita. I didn't feel aligned with the conventional doctor I was with, and I felt very aligned and in partnership with the new integrative oncologist. Within 6 months, protocol change, med change, and doubling down on here's the nutrition plan and the herbs and supplements, I had that liver tumor fully resolved 6 months later, and I have been stable and no evidence of disease ever since. And that was 2016. So it's been 8+ years.
That's amazing. Really a beautiful story, and congratulations to you for being proactive. I've shared this many times, but it's something I learned very early in life. My mom told me that each person, each one of us as humans is responsible for our own health. And that means finding the right answers, that you do not put your faith in any one human. You keep looking until you find what fits for you, which I think is sage advice. So, what do you say to the skeptics who say, well, it was the traditional medicine, like the other thing clearly didn't work?
Mhm.
Or on the other side, will people say it was obviously just the alternative that you did and the medical didn't? How do you navigate that?
So for me, I feel like the proof is in the fact that cancer's stable and I have almost no side effects from the drugs. And I have talked to plenty of other women that are taking the exact same drugs that I'm taking who have loads of side effects or side effects that are so debilitating they just can't take it anymore. And I look at it as, well, I am supporting my health fully and completely with these lifestyle factors that are strengthening my immune system and helping me to heal my body. I mean, our bodies are innately able to heal themselves. We need to get out of the way. We need to give the body what it needs and help it. But I believe that to me, the proof is just I'm doing so well and I have almost no side effects.
Do you think you had some kind of a proclivity, some kind of information from the past that allowed you to look for alternative? Because I know a lot of people who it's almost like a religion. I'm not going to look at vitamin C because my doctor said chemo. They just will not. So what do you think helped you actually be able to look for that answer and also have some faith in it enough to continue? It's not easy. I know that's not an easy road.
Right. Well, and when you're faced with a life-threatening diagnosis, it's stage 4. There's no cure. And a lot of people are told, get your affairs in order when they get a stage 4 diagnosis. God bless the conventional oncologist who told me this is a chronic disease we can manage. So hormone receptor positive breast cancer, in his mind, was treatable as a chronic disease. Just need to manage it. So I said, all right, I am going to manage the hell out of this. And I felt like my life depended on it. If I wanted to be around for my kids to grow up and achieve milestones and for my own growth and for that 100th birthday, all the things that I want to do, I was not going to leave that up to just one option. I was going to do everything that was available to me. And I think mindset has a huge part to play in it, because when you have a mindset like I do, it is a mindset of, I can do this. I'm empowered. I have some level of control over the choices I make and what happens to me and to my health as I go through this journey. And I really decided that it wasn't just up to the doctors or to alternative. That to me was too scary. I know some people have the courage to do a completely alternative approach. But in looking at what was available to me, it just felt right. My intuition said, yes, this integrative doctor who brings in both the standard of care and these healthier complementary options really felt right to me. And it's turned out to be right for me. And not everybody's going to follow that same path. Everybody has their own journey to make. So hopefully I've answered that question and given you some clarity on it.
Yeah, I just have one follow-up. So would you share with everybody what is an integrative oncologist? And did that mean that you also had another oncologist, or did your integrative oncologist handle both things, the Western medicine and the more natural side?
Yeah. So the integrative oncologist is that standard of care plus. And so the integrative oncologists walk the line between, I'm doing the standard of care. Yes, I'm going to advise chemo or pills, meds or radiation when it's appropriate and necessary. But they also are supporting your health and healing through the use of nutrition, supplements, mind, body, spirit approach. And to me, that's a partnership that I could get behind. There are naturopathic doctors who have an oncology specialty that can also help you with that, but that's where you may still need to have a conventional oncologist. I gently fired my conventional oncologist and switched all my care over to the integrative oncologist.
Which is a super, super brave thing to do, because we work with many people who are on a cancer journey, and that's terrifying to them to let that go. So in many ways, there has to be a sort of a leap of faith, or a deep enough understanding. I don't want to say a belief, but an understanding of what alternative things can do in changing your lifestyle to make that move confidently. So we've run up against our first break. So when we get back, if you're willing, maybe we could talk about some of what of those alternative things are, because there are many people out there who've never heard of them and don't know they're a possibility. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network, and we'll be right back. Let's be honest. Do you find yourself saying, I've read all the books, I've done all the mindset work, I've taken all the classes, but I still have that same problem? I still feel like I'm reacting the same way. Still feel stuck in that same pattern? If so, you are not alone. This is exactly why Bill McKenna and I created the Cognomovement Essentials course. It's for the person who knows all the tools, who's done all the tricks, but it just doesn't seem to stick for you. This isn't another mental hack or feel-good workbook. It's a tool that rewires the signal in your nervous system, the part that keeps repeating that same emotional pattern, even when your mind knows better. Most programs do give you insight, but this one gives you the experience. You'll be guided through actual sessions right inside the course, not just told what to do later. You will begin starting to clear patterns in real time. If you've been stuck in shame or sabotage or cravings or overwhelm, or just feel like something deeper is still in control, this is where it starts to shift. The course is self-paced. It includes our private community. It comes with the official Cogno Ball, so you can actually get started and do the work. And here's the biggest difference about Cognomovement Essentials course. Your changes stick and they last. Grab the link in the description and get started today. Okay, and we are back. We are talking to Karla Mans Giroux, and she's the co-director of the Radical Remission Project. And I'd asked you, Karla, if you would share with people, what does it mean, alternative, and what kinds of things did you do, with the understanding that we know there are many, many, many things, but you mentioned mind, body, and spirit. So if you're willing, share with us some of that.
Absolutely. So just to me, you've got the conventional option and you've got the alternative option, which means if you're going alternative, you're completely not going conventional. And some people do that and do have a good outcome. I went an integrative approach, utilizing both, right? And to me and to the integrative oncologist that I work with, he sees better outcomes for people that choose to do both, right? So people that only take one or the other approach may not always have the best outcomes. There are more people that are having better outcomes in that integrative approach, but a lot of us have to piece it together ourselves. So that can be difficult. And the integrative doctor I see definitely looks for the evidence. There is a research team within his organization that's looking at different things and deciding if, there's enough evidence behind this. But I think we can all get behind the fact that blueberries are good for us. Really, why question that? And really, do we need a study that's going to tell us that? But when I look at Dr. Turner's research, those 10 healing factors, they're not necessarily an alternative approach. They're just a lifestyle changes that anybody can implement in their life to help them overcome whatever they're dealing with. And there are 10, and there are 3 physical, and then there are the emotional, mental, and spiritual factors. So I'll start just rattling off the 3 physical, if I may, because those are the ones that people typically wrap their head around first. And like they start to dig in immediately to diet. What are they eating? What do they need to change about what they're eating? And when it came to the radical remission survivors, there wasn't a single diet. Some were vegan, some were ketogenic, some were macrobiotic, plant-based, et cetera, et cetera. But the overall sweeping trends that they all had in common was to reduce or maybe even eliminate meat, wheat, sweets, and dairy. So we know our red meats, our processed meats are probable carcinogens, right? We know that the wheat and the refined grains can be problematic for us. So this is more about choosing whole grains. And if you're going to eat wheat, you might want to look at non-GMO products. And that's a bigger deal in the US than in other countries, but definitely important. And then the dairy, right? You are what you eat eats. So if the cow is being fed a substandard diet of, whatever they're feeding it, and in the conditions they're grown and factory sort of grown cows, you want to choose, if you're going to have dairy, high quality dairy, grass-fed dairy, grass-fed beef, animals that have been treated a little bit differently and fed a little bit differently. And, as long as you're doing that higher quality, it can be okay to have some of that. And then of course, sugar. And that's typically the really ultra processed foods are loaded with extra sugars and chemicals and additives. And so looking for the minimally processed foods to help you. But that's the nutrition piece, the diet piece. And then there's exercise. This was the factor that got added later because when Dr. Turner first did her research, so many of those people had been sent home on hospice care that when she's, did you exercise? No, they weren't going to the gym. They weren't lifting weights. They weren't in spin class or running marathons. But when she went back to look at it, she's like, but you were moving. You were moving your body. So we need to reframe it as physical activity. And then the other physical factor is herbs and supplements, actually finding someone that can help you to determine what you need. And we always recommend that you find a licensed practitioner who can do testing or assessments to figure out what you individually need, because just because I'm taking it doesn't mean it's right for you to take it. Those are the 3 physical.
Okay. This is such an interesting conversation here with Karla. And there's something that Liz and myself, one of our mantras, your body will express for you the emotion you cannot process. Now, we have been saying this for the past decade. And the thing that I was so excited to have Karla on today in this Radical Remission Project is because the research, I believe it's a Harvard researcher, had researched the 10 factors that are common to people in these really bad situations, less than a 25% chance of recovery, late stage cancer. And out of the 10 factors that were common for these people who had radical remissions, 7 of them were emotional and spiritual. So next, we want to dig into that with Karla. What are those 10? It really perfectly dovetails with what we do and what we've actually seen repeatedly on a weekly basis. Liz and myself call it our miracles, our weekly miracles. What is it? What is the miracle of the week? It's gotten down to the day now because there's so many people doing it. So we've got a lot of miracles happening. So Karla, tell us about these 7 factors.
Yes, the other 7 factors. Well, I'll start with emotional release. So it's about releasing suppressed emotions, and don't get caught up in the suppressed piece of it. It's releasing emotions, right? And this is the negativity, the stress, the fear, the forgiveness that needs to happen, etc. And releasing emotions, many of us need to learn to just actually feel our feelings and name them and let them go instead of stuffing them down, instead of pushing them down. And if you look at traditional Chinese medicine and different theories, disease happens where emotions get stuck in the body. And so that's one of the factors. The other in this category is increasing positive emotions. So the more joy and happiness and love that we feel, the more of those good hormones we're releasing into our bloodstream and boosting our immune system. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. Turner is that positive emotions are like rocket fuel for the immune system. So you might be, feeling really poorly and really kind of depressed and upset about a diagnosis, but the more that you can exercise that muscle of positivity, you're giving yourself a boost and you're helping your immune system get back into optimal shape. So then we have empowerment. This is taking charge of your health. This is where, being the empowered patient is really about being the exceptional patient, the one that is asking questions and doing research and, not just sitting there nodding along and say, okay, I'll take the pill, I'll do the chemo, I'll do whatever. And that may be right for some people, but it may not be. And being empowered enough to feel like you sit at the head of the boardroom table and your practitioners of all kinds, your oncologist and your naturopath and your acupuncturist, etc., are all sitting there giving you their expert opinions and advice, but ultimately it's you that needs to make the decision what's right for you, which then leads me to intuition. So intuition is a big piece of helping you on your journey to figure out what's right for you to do. If you can listen to that voice within, that inner wisdom, which to me is a direct connection to God, spirit, universe, divine, then you're getting messages that help you know you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing. And everybody's going to get a different message. It's not the same. So intuition can really help you go within to listen to that and to help you make decisions on any of these other choices within your health journey. Let's see. Social support is another one. Social support, having people that are showing you love and support is important. And the distinction comes in, we're really good at giving love and support, but we're not always good at receiving love and support. So what the radical remission survivors all had to learn to do was to be open to receive the love and support that others were offering. And in some cases, in many cases, we all had to learn to ask for help. And that's really hard in today's culture. Asking for help, people think it's a sign of weakness, etc. But quite the opposite. When we allow people to help us, we are actually giving ourselves a whole nother level of healing because of that love and support. And really, again, boosting our immune systems by feeling that kind of support. Mm-hmm. Spirituality is another one of the factors. So if we can deepen our spirituality, this is not about religion, although some people enter it through religion, and some people have a spirituality and religion, and some people have only religion or only spirituality. But this is about connecting to something bigger than yourself. That higher power, right? That really helps you to feel that you are held, that there is something that you believe in, something that you can trust, something bigger than yourself. A lot of people find that through nature or through creative endeavors, their art, whether it's music, painting, writing, etc. And then there's strong reasons for living. And strong reasons for living is a really good place to start, because if you know your reason why are you here? Why do you want to keep living? Why do you want to get out of bed every day and face the challenges of life? Then you've got your strong reason for living. That brings meaning and purpose into your life. And that can be a huge benefit to someone on a health journey.
That one is so true. I have known so many people in my life. I'll share just a quick story. When I was a kid, there was this woman in our church who was very, very poor, actually. And she got a form of cancer that created almost like tentacles around her heart. And she didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of resources. We live in a small town. And she had heard about the Gerson Institute, the Gerson, but she read the book, but she, of course, didn't have the money to go and have that treatment. So what she did was they got carrots that they feed to horses and did carrot juicing. And it made such an impact on me because she was bright orange for a while. But the thing about her was she was absolutely determined that that was not going to take her from her kids. She had kids, she had a whole family, a whole life. And it did not. She outlived it. She, is still living today in her 80s. She was probably 30 when this happened. I mean, to me, she seemed like an old lady because I was a little kid. But what she taught me and what I've seen since is that the people who overcome cancer that is, stage 4, terminal diagnosis, they are just damn determined that they're going to.
Right.
So even just that one factor of getting in there and knowing that you're going to kick this thing. And if not, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot of fun until you're done. So I love that piece that's included. And this sounds like such a beautifully comprehensive mastery of work that's been put together. We are at the end of our next segment, and we get to hear from our beautiful sponsors at the UK Health Radio. And when we get back, we'll hear more about your journey and more about what the Radical Remission Project has to offer the world. So UK Health, take it away. Okay, and we are back. We're talking to Karla Mans Giroux about the Radical Remission Project. So pick up where you left off. There, you had there's 7 things, and then are there another 10 as well?
So there's 10 total,
10
and
total.
the first 3 were the physical, and then the other 7 were the mental, emotional. So, for me personally, utilizing that mind, body, spirit approach, it really encompassed all of these 10 healing factors. And learning more about them and how to implement them into my life made a huge difference on my healing journey. And as I shared before, some of these were things that I had just innately done. I just knew, or my cancer coach helped me. And then others were newer and things I needed to explore a little bit more deeply. But I also learned early on, after finding the book, that there were radical remission workshops. So I went to a radical remission workshop to learn more about it, to dig in a little bit deeper. It was an in-person workshop. We also offer them virtually now. And it really helped me not only to learn more, but to put an action plan together, to set goals for myself and to figure out what my action steps were for each of these factors so that I could go back to my day-to-day life and figure out, how am I going to do this? Because initially, when I changed my diet, I made some radical changes to my diet, and there were a lot of tears and a lot of struggle over, how am I going to do this? And I'm so hungry and I can only eat vegetables, and what am I going to do? And where am I going to find food? And once I got through learning and figuring out how to make those changes, it became easier. So we like to tell people that these factors are simple, but they're not always easy, right? And so simple nutritional changes aren't always the easiest nutritional changes, but it makes a difference. And so from that workshop, I learned more, and also a community of like-minded people, also having a diagnosis and wanting to overcome it and do everything they could in their power to find healing, some choosing to use conventional and some not. And it was just a beautiful experience to have that weekend retreat. And I was blessed to take one of Dr. Turner's last workshops that she actually presented herself. Now what the Radical Remission Project is doing is teaching others, coaches or medical practitioners, how to teach the workshop and how to coach people on these healing lifestyle factors. So there are over 150 certified radical remission coaches in the world that can help people learn more about this, take them through a workshop or one-on-one coaching, and really help people with the implementation of this.
I want to back up for a second. You were talking about simple diet changes and the massive emotional response to it. And there's something that Bill and I have to add to this conversation about that emotional connection to food and cravings. So share a little bit about that, Bill. I think that might help our audience kind of connect with that piece.
Yeah, so there's thousands of people out there that all across the globe that utilize Cognomovement, and some of them know about this and some don't. But there was a very early on in the development of Cognomovement, we recognized something really incredible about the cravings for food. And it turns out that literally the world has everything flipped on its head. We're told, that you need to be stronger than the pizza, or if I just educated you on that, this is made with nightshades, which are tomatoes, and then they have these factors on your body, then you're not going to want that pizza. And you're like, okay, all right, don't eat that. And you look at it and you smell it and you're like, no, but I want that pizza. I do want it. I know it's not good, but I can't help it, and I eat it. Well, it turns out that this whole thing is a reaction from our nervous system. And we humans have an experience, some positive experience in our life. My daughter would every Sunday when she was 1 to 2 years old, I would go and buy pancakes, and we would sit in the living room and the shades are shut. Mama is sleeping, and when she's undisturbed, she gets Sunday to just take care of herself. And me and my daughter are just sharing pancakes and really nothing, just me and her talking alone. And, it's nice, but there's really nothing, we'll make little jokes or whatever. And eating pancakes. Well, years go by, she gets sick, so sick, 3 days pass and she won't eat. And she's losing weight. She's just a little wisp of a little girl anyway. She's losing weight. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like, honey, is there anything I can get you? Anything in the world that you'll eat right now? It doesn't matter what it is. Just, I'll get it. Pancakes. She felt love, acceptance, appreciation, and emotionally, what happens is we have a life experience from eating a product and having an emotion. And these two things bind together in our nervous system, in our brain. And when we don't feel good, we reach for that. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of people think, oh, that's chocolate, or, that's coffee. No, we've had people that have yellow mustard on pizza and a Diet Coke. It's like strange stuff.
Frozen potato chips. That was
a frozen potato chip.
Yeah. And that's the thing. This urge for these foods, if you don't have them, it can feel like you're dying. And so for a person who must remove them to save their life, it is a massive, massive conflict. So what we do is we address that at the nervous system level and let the body actually enjoy it, and do the work to address the nervous system. And then in minutes, it just collapses. And all of a sudden, the person realizes why that driver in their body is there. And sometimes collapsing that driver changes everything in their life. My daughter has a health issue and she needed to change her diet. And as soon as she got on the diet, her mind would go crazy and she would be driven to like drive 30 miles at 9 o'clock at night to buy cookies. So, she finally did the work on herself around it. And it was this weird driver about stress and not having access to what she wants and needs. It radically changed her life and her health. From that moment on, it was no problem. She needed to do, like you said, like an elimination diet, eliminating things that have toxic ingredients and all of that. And so having that piece it changes everything.
And the beauty of this, here's the weird thing, is the way out is the way in. The person, instead of the chocolate chip cookie, we let them eat the chocolate chip cookie, and we know that the eyes are connected to the brain. We can actually see the disturbance in their eyes where that craving exists. And once that is negated, it's like, poof, it's gone. And the person is like, that chocolate chip, literally, we have them on film. They're tasting the chocolate chip cookie, and it's like, this thing isn't like grease, and it kind of smells. And it's not, and we're not talking them into it. We're saying, no, enjoy it. But anyway, this is something that I think is really important, is not to suffer through the process. And it's possible to no longer suffer. Everything you're talking about, by the way, I just want to hand it to you and the creator of Radical Remission. It's such a gift to the world. And we know, Liz and myself worked with Alicia, who was on your show, right. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3, and everybody knows that's like a death sentence. And here she is. She implemented everything you're talking about. She went through and processed all those 7 things that are emotional and spiritual. We worked with her, and she just boom, 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 went through, transformed herself. And here she is, cancer-free, many, many years later. And it's just a beautiful soul,
yes.
to witness it, much like yourself, so it's just such an honor and such a gift to the world that, you guys are out there, have brought it together, brought the science together for people to realize that your body's going to express for you the emotion you can't process. We like to say, Liz and myself say, if you pay close attention, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to get tired if you don't pay attention to the trauma and the emotion. And then if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to get sick. And it's just going to be a flu or a cold. And if you don't pay attention to that, then the big dog shows up, and now you're seeing an oncologist. But the cool thing is that, and the beauty of what you're bringing to the world here is that this train doesn't just go in one direction. It can go the other way too. And you've got some science to back it up that there's a way out. I think it's a beautiful dovetail for our what we mutually do and what we witness on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Well, we just have a few minutes left, Karla. So I want to make sure that everybody knows how they can work with a coach. I think that's what you call it, a practitioner or coach in the Radical Remission Project. What are ways that people can just get started if they're curious about this?
Yeah, so they can go to the website, radicalremission.com. and they will find a button that takes them to events where they can find a workshop or another event to attend virtually and in person, offered both ways all over the place. They can also find a coach. So one of those 150 or so certified coaches that if they want to do one-on-one work with them, they can certainly explore that. We also have the docuseries if they'd prefer to watch the 10-part docuseries that talks about all of these 10 factors plus survivors that are sharing their inspiring story. And of course, there's the 2 books, Radical Remission and Radical Hope. And all of it is research-based. It's not Dr. Turner made these factors up. This is what she found that people were doing. And then we have the Harvard study that they can learn a little bit more about. They studied the workshop and found out that taking the workshop actually improves a person's quality of life, not just 1 month after a workshop, but even more 6 months later. So the Radical Remission Project, that website is a great place to go and to find some resources. And of course, if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, I am co-director, I'm on that website, but I also have my own practice, Health Navigators. So my website is healthnavs.com. And you can schedule coaching with me, a discovery session to learn more about it. You can see the workshops and things that we have to offer. And if anybody would like to take a workshop through me and my partner at Health Navigators, they can use the coupon code Cogno $50 to get $50 off an upcoming workshop. That's COGNO $50.
Thank you so much for that. That is amazing. And we really appreciate you offering the audience that. And I want to encourage anybody out there who is struggling with a cancer diagnosis to know that there is help, there is support. And this sounds like one of the most comprehensive ways that I've ever heard to offer people all of the options. To know what you don't know, find out what else is possible for you, and to gain, I think, that confidence to be damn sure you're going to kick this thing, damn sure you're going to fight it. Because I do think that is a really important factor for everybody. And we know personally people who have done it and who are thriving today. So thank you so much for being with us, Karla. We really appreciate it. And we hope you'll come back and share more. I'm sure people would love to hear some of the amazing stories from around the globe. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I did forget to mention we have a podcast. So Stories That Heal shares stories like Alicia's and others who have overcome.
Stories That Heal. And people can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yep, all the podcast platforms, the Radical Remission Stories That Heal podcast. And thank you so much for allowing me to share this wonderful information.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So thanks for being here, Bill McKenna. Thank you for being here, Karla. For everybody out there in UK Health Radio Land, until next time, be safe and be well.